My name is Wallace Bradley, and I'm the host of the Bradley Report. I'm also the president of United in Peace, Inc. Got a very interesting day. Well, so much has happened. I know the world know by now that there's a memorial for Jerry Iceman Butler. You know, he was the one that brought me over to become fraternally in tune with the Masonic peace. He gave me my first job as an ex-felon. He brought me into government. Everybody know the Iceman, like I do. We see him really as a marriage counselor for the songs that he has, Only the Strong Survive. He don't love you like I love you. Strawberry. Ain't understand it, mellow. For your precious love. He left, but he left a legacy. So we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna show you a little news. Everybody got to have news. We're gonna talk about how strong Brandon Johnson stood for the values of Chicago while he was in Washington, D.C. If I got time, we'll be able to tell you what the world is seeing and what Trump is realizing, him and Elon Musk. Not only are you destroying America, you're causing havoc. And like people was telling me, just so y'all can get richer. You're gonna see it for yourself. Judge it for yourself. The issues of this show is brought to my attention as me and the First Lady sometimes have a debate on what her opinion is and what my opinion is. And one thing I can say, her opinions always win out. I just come out and act like I did all of it. And that's none other than the chairman of United in Peace, Inc. Just got her doctorate degree. She's now Dr. Terry Marsh Bradley. And she's the chairman of United in Peace, Inc. And this show is brought to you by United in Peace, Inc. So without further ado, Armani, let's make it do what it do.
Sons say this time is made more challenging due to conflicts with their father's caretaker.
Difficult. Difficult is too much.
Tony and Randy Butler are the sons of the late Jerry Butler. Jerry Butler passed away last month. He was a Cook County commissioner for over 30 years, but most people know him from his career in music. Known as the Iceman, he performed with the Impressions and had a successful solo career before going into public service. Teresa Griffin credits her singing career to Butler. She started as one of his backup singers. Today, Griffin was with Butler's sons. They believe the caretaker has power of attorney over Butler's estate. They allege the caretaker has not involved them in planning a visitation and funeral service this week. Today, they are asking Butler's remains be present for a memorial service the family is planning for next week.
I just don't understand how someone could work against a family that's already in so much pain.
It's like you doing this on purpose. You know, you are doing it on purpose. And it's not right.
The caretaker, who prefers to be referred to as Mr. Butler's assistant, declined an on-camera interview, and today tells ABC 7 she had no comment on the allegations made by Butler's sons. For now, Butler's assistant is moving forward with visitation tomorrow, and the family is moving forward with its public memorial on March 12th.
I just want to say to his family, his two sons, the song that inspired Your grandmother gave a message to your dad, and he turned it to a song. And he said, only the strong survive. So stay strong, because what was wrong gonna be right. And that's what I want to say on that. Memorial service is tomorrow. The city gonna be there because Jerry Butler was the city of Chicago. So now, let's get on to what we got to do with the short time that we got to do it in.
At its moments, Republicans going after 4 Democratic mayors over their sanctuary city policies, which Republicans call illegal. Mayor Brandon Johnson not backing down, doing what he came here to do, which was to defend Chicago's welcoming city ordinance and not be bullied into changing it. A relieved Mayor Brandon Johnson feeling good after the day-long hearing.
Well, look, it's a lot easier to speak to the values of our city when you believe in them.
For the better part of 6 hours, Mayor Johnson and his counterparts from New York, Denver, and Boston defending their sanctuary policies against Republican accusations that they make cities less safe.
So let me be clear. Chicago's welcoming city ordinance and our other laws and policies do not lead to more crime.
Johnson on numerous occasions facing rapid-fire questions and frequent interruptions by Republicans who accused him of violating federal law with an ordinance that bans local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE agents on civil immigration matters.
Are you willing to go to jail for violating federal law?
The city of Chicago complies with all laws.
Oh, I highly doubt that.
Illinois Republican Darren LaHood getting a waiver to join the committee.
You need to reverse your policies on sanctuary cities. That's what the election results were last year. Crime and
down in
immigration
Chicago.
were the #1 issue in the election, from Republicans, Democrats,
Chairman, the
Independents.
gentleman's
We
time
could
has
use your
expired.
help to actually help us continue to invest in these programs that continue to drive violence down in the city of Chicago.
Democrats firing back.
Today's hearing is nothing more than a shakedown against the mayors of some of our nation's biggest cities.
But Republicans ready to play hardball.
I do not think you guys are bad people, but I think that you are ideologically misled, which is why, unfortunately, based on your responses, I'm all going to be criminally referring you to the Department of Justice for investigation.
What are your concerns, if any, about the possibility of charges being brought against you and the other mayors?
Well, I mean, if that happens, our legal team, our corporate counsel will review those documents and proceed accordingly.
Mayor Johnson will be heading back to Chicago in the morning, but he did a good job today of avoiding any embarrassing moments or any blunders, and he said he's not going to be bullied by Republicans on Congress or anyone else.
You know, one thing about those MAGA Republicans, they speak about eradicating crime, yet they act like January 6th. Those weren't crimes committed against the Capitol of the United States. And even though President Trump pardoned them, had they not created a crime, there would have been no need for a pardon. When we see Elon Musk doing what he's doing, and at the same time he getting billions and billions of dollars from government contracts that he don't want to be regulated. For them to say that it's wrong for what Mayor Brandon is doing by standing firm on something that was in play for the city of Chicago for 40 years. I'm glad he didn't let them bait him. I'm glad that the corporate counsel was standing there behind him. But this is what I want to share with you. If we in Chicago get tricked of food, and we can't afford to do it. Believe me, you're seeing what's happening in Washington, D.C. Now, I saw in my little news trend, a thread, however you want to call it, where all of a sudden the FBI is saying anybody that threaten anybody on social media, they're going to be investigated. And I said, wow. My grandparents used to always tell me the rabbit will someday get the gun, because we was hunting rabbits. And when you hear the U.S. Attorney General come out and say, we going at anybody that was against Trump, and he's a felon that's been found guilty. And those prosecutors, U.S. attorneys, were doing their job. And when you hear the FBI director that he has say he want to get rid of all the FBI agents that were doing their job. And I say, okay, when you hear the Proud Boys and the MAGAs with their threats against judges and their families, who's going to investigate them? All I can say, and I say it every time, read those books of Samuel in the Bible, and you know it's nothing new. Saul wanted to be a king too. Walk by faith in God, stay prayerful, and give him praise. And let the book of Job be your GPS, and you'll see how we're going to get through this. When the president says he wants to charge Canada more, 25% more on aluminum cans and steel, I guess he didn't know that we get 86%, I believe, or 80-some% of our aluminum and all that coming from Canada or going to Canada. And then he realized it'd be hard to get a good can of camel soup because it's going to cost more, because Canada can put a tariff on the United States. That's what they did. He wanted to back down, let's talk. Canada spoke straight to the people of the United States and said, we don't want this war. He bringing it. And they ain't trying to be the 51st state. So all that I'm saying, people in Chicago, don't let the black maggots try to fool you like Trump and his supporters is better for Chicago than Brandon Johnson. Those MAGA supporters want to get rid of the Department of Education. You got a mayor that's here standing for education for everybody. The MAGA supporters, they want to get rid of the books, they want to get rid of the culture and everything else. I'm telling you what you're seeing, I'm telling you what you're hearing, believe it. We got to make sure we keep Illinois blue. You don't want a Republican governor. You don't want a Republican senator. And you definitely do not want a MAGA-influenced mayor. I don't care if he's Hispanic, black, or white. the thing that's hurting America now is hurting those that voted for Trump. Even the MAGAs. They thought it was just going to affect blacks and Hispanics. And then it dawned on them, even the Republican senators, Republican congressmen, when they have a town hall, the people come in there and say, hey, wait a minute, Joe, we voted for you, we got a red hat. Well, you know, Elon Musk say, you know, we got to cut the fat and all that. Cut the fat? You getting rid of our farms. The people gonna make it right. Got elections coming up in 2026. But keep God first. Let's get on, Mike, to the next piece.
Had a mandate. He won with nearly 86% support from his party, and he says that's his mandate to move forward with the Liberal Party's platform, which is focused a lot on what's happening in Washington and the trade war. He'll likely be sworn in the next couple of days. Had a meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau this morning at Parliament, and they discussed the logistics for Trudeau stepping down and him taking that post. He'll then turn around quickly, since he's not a member of Parliament, and call for an election, a federal election, where he will run to keep that post. Most believe it's going to be a close, a contentious race. He is running against the conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, who President Trump has said is more in line with his ideology and someone that he feels like he could work with a bit better.
But Carney seems to be the guy I know going in here, Jay. He had some strong words, which we don't typically say about Canadians, but he did have some strong words about President Trump and his comments about making Canada the 51st state and things like that. What do we know about how Carney might engage with President Trump going forward?
Well, he has said he's going to be direct. He says that one of his initial missions is to stand up to the president and what he calls threat to the actual freedom of Canada. I was at that convention last night. I can tell you that not only from Carney, but others at the podium and in the crowd, there was much more discussion about the tariff tug of war, about the trade war, about that suggestion from President Trump that the U.S. could absorb Canada as its 51st state. Then there were any discussions about problems in Canada or issues within Canada. So this country is highly focused on what's going on here, and it's become very nationalized. They are buying Canadian, boycotting American, and doing everything they can, they say, to send a message not only to the U.S. but the world.
And one of those...
No. Canada is an ally of the United States. I'm glad that President Trump made a decision to start giving Ukraine what he has stopped giving them. Because what he had displayed, he made the world feel like he was in full support of what Putin was doing. This ain't some that Gator telling you. This ain't no AI. The whole world heard him say that the president of Ukraine was a dictator and that he started the war with Russia, when the whole world know that Russia and Putin are the aggressors. A white lie is one thing, but the eradication of what is truth is another. That's like brainwashing. I'm glad they met over in Saudi Arabia, wherever they met, but it's back to the table, and they got to go back to Putin, and Putin is what you got to do. Because what everyone is watching and they're seeing, America was #1. Now it's questionable because of the man that's there, that's the president. I believe everybody should be given a chance. The people spoke, they voted for him. Now those that voted for him and say, oh my God, I got Medicaid, I got Medicare. How do you take from Social Security when that money is coming out your check to provide for you to have some when you reach a certain age to retire? You know, I saw what Al Green did, and people was wondering why did he do it. Well, come time where you got to speak when something is wrong. Don't keep talking about what Congressman Lewis did and what Martin Luther King did. And we got to do so that our kids and our children will know about being right and don't just take anything. Don't sell your pound of flesh. You look at his cabinet, there's many African Americans that stood up, that pushed that man to convince black people to vote for that man. And him and Elon Musk is getting rid of DEI, and it wasn't just black people. It was white people, especially white women, that was taking advantage of the DEI. They hate everybody. All that I'm saying is up to the people. And I ain't talking about marching to Washington, D.C. and breaking no windows, and I ain't talking about none of that. I'm talking about no violence. Come to our senses to understand and respect nonpartisan, but it's for the betterment of everybody. They're hurting. Go back, Republicans, you hearing it. The RNC set out a directive telling the congressman, Republican congressman, stop having those town hall meetings because they couldn't afford for the media to see those people that voted for him because of the hate that they had for someone else and the fear that someone else was trying to take something from them. They getting fired off their jobs. A lot of them was federal employees. I ain't got to tell you. Just watch the news. Just listen to the news. What it is what it is. If it's raining outside, you're going to get wet. So I'm just saying, stay prayerful, walk by faith in God, love your neighbors, even if you ain't speaking to them. Because the way things are panning out, you may have to go to them to get a slice of bread. Just don't be violent and go and try to take their half a loaf of bread. So with that, I want to say, to God be the glory. That's the United States story. And know that understanding is mellow, and only the strong survive. To God be the glory. That's Gator's story.